Good day, everyone. My name is Ronaldo M. Yabut, and the last main topic of our group is oral communication and verbal communication. Many are confused when they hear the word oral and verbal or oral communication and verbal communication. Is it just the same or different? What do you think? Today I will discuss the difference between oral communication and verbal communication and the oral communication. First, let us define what is oral communication. Communication is the basic mode of interaction, and oral communication is one of its methods to do so. It is done face to face directly with a person or a group, or it can be defined as interchanging of information, thoughts, ideas, feelings, or emotions through spoken words between two people or more that is called as oral communication. For example, exchange of thoughts in a business meeting, speeches, group discussions, live interactions with hundreds and thousands of people are a mode of oral communication. The importance and need of oral communication are mainly that it helps in gaining self-confidence, allows you to interact directly with numerous individuals, helps in learning things quicker and easier. It also allows you to convey and portraying emotions in a better way. Oral communication have five basic elements that are sender, medium, channel, receiver, and feedback. Now let us define what is verbal communication. Verbal communication can be defined as expressing or conveying thoughts, ideas, any piece of information between or among two person or group through the means of sounds or words. Television, radio, mobile phones are the modes of communication. Verbal communication can be subdivided into further four groups. First, public communication. Public communication can be defined as interacting with a person in public or addressing a large number of people at once. For example, speeches of ministers in election campaign. Next group is small group communication. Interacting with a small group of people, for example, the principal addressing students and teachers in the school assembly. Interpersonal communication. This is a mode of communication that is required to communicate within itself. For example, self-thinking, analysis of daily work. The last group is interpersonal communication. Communication is done between two or more people, for example, interaction through video calls. Now let us differentiate oral communication and verbal communication through the help of this table. We have the parameters of comparison, the oral communication and verbal communication. The parameters of comparisons are meaning, origin, how can it be done, proof, and usage. First, the meaning. Oral communication. Process of exchanging expressions, thoughts, ideas between two or more individuals, while verbal communication means is a mode of communication with help of words or sounds. Their origin, oral communication. The word oral comes from the Latin word oralis, which means mouth, while verbal communication, the word verbal comes from the Latin word verbum, which means word. How can it be done? Oral communication can be done directly between two or more individuals, while verbal communication can be done through writing, sign languages, or sounds. In terms of proof, oral communication, no proof can be kept usually, while verbal communication, proof can be kept. Their usage. The word oral can be used as an adjective as well as a noun, while verbal can be used a noun, verb, or adjective. Now, these are the main differences between oral communication and verbal communication. First, oral communication requires direct face-to-face interaction or communication with one or more individuals, while verbal communication is not meant to be done directly. Second, oral communication is a way of interacting with others more effectively and efficiently by speaking, while in verbal communication, mainly the communication is done by words. Oral communication is an informal method of communication, while on the other hand, verbal communication is a means of formal interaction between two or more people. Next, as oral communication is a direct method of communication, therefore, it is less time-consuming and flexible, while it is the opposite of verbal communication as it is highly time-consuming. Also, in oral communication, direct and immediate feedback is necessary, while on the other hand, verbal communication takes some time to get to the feedback. Now, let us proceed to the types of oral communication. We have face-to-face, video conferencing, telephone, interviews, group discussion, presentations, and grapevine. Face-to-face interaction, less often face-to-face communication or face-to-face discourse, is a concept of sociology, linguistics, media, and communication studies describing social interaction carried out without any mediating technology. While video conferencing is the conduct of video conference, also known as video conference or video teleconference, by a set of telecommunication technologies which allow two or more locations to communicate by simultaneous two-way video and audio transmissions. And of course, for telephone, communicating through telephones like using mobile phones or dial-up phone. The next type of oral communication is interview. The person who answers the questions of an interview is called an interviewee. The person who asks the questions of our interview is called an interviewer. It suggests a meeting between two persons for the purpose of getting a view of each other or for knowing each other. When we normally think of an interview, we think a setting is in which an employer tries to size up an applicant for a job. The next type of oral communication is group discussion. Group discussion has two or more persons joined together and they discuss about a particular thing or making decisions or identifying skills. Nowadays, group discussion is being extensively used along with personal interviews for the final selection of candidates. It plays a main role in selecting the best among the best. The next type is presentation. A presentation is the process of presenting a topic to an audience. It is typically a demonstration, lecture, or speech meant to inform, persuade, or build goodwill. And the last type of oral communication is what we call grapevine. Grapevine is to hear something through the grapevine, is to learn or something informally or unofficially by means of gossip or rumor. The usual implication is that the information was passed through person to person by word of mouth, perhaps in a confidential manner among friends or colleagues. It can also imply an overheard conversation or anonymous sources of information. For instance, I heard through the grapevine that Brad getting fired. And that's all the types of oral communication. Now, let us sum up. Communication is a method of interacting with known or unknown persons, formally or informally. For a formal purpose, you may use various types of verbal communication, while for an informal one you are free to choose the oral communication method. Although you're communicating with an individual or a group, you do not always require having education but must be knowing a common method to communicate. It can be anything such as speaking the same language, writing the same language, and others. The communication method has further many subtypes which are helpful to us in our daily lives. Speaking of their importance, oral communication helps us in bringing up self-confidence. It helps in grasping things earlier and easier, also portraying self-emotions fluently. On the other hand, verbal communication's main perspective revolves around building a formal and comfort zone between individuals to boost up their business or organization. It also helps them to diversify their boundaries and explore them making a profit for their working place. Again, I am Ronaldo M. Yabut and thank you for listening.